Alright everyone, Marco Palmero, founder of Ulysses in Dubai. In this video, I'm going to share one of my personal stories about a negotiation I had with a business owner in Dubai. And I want to share this story because it told me a very important lesson, which is never assume anything when you are interacting with somebody else, when you're negotiating with somebody else, when you're trying to do a deal with somebody else. And so I'm going to walk you through this story. I think it will be very interesting because it gave me perspective on how I should approach a discussion with somebody and how I should avoid to let my own thinking cloud the overall judgment and the overall picture of the situation. And so the point was this, we got this deal, which was a small business acquisition in Dubai. We were kind of interested in the facility because it appeared to be a suitable deal for our own criteria, our own acquisitions criteria at Ulysses. As a consequence, we engaged with the owner briefly. We requested the initial information that we generally ask to select the opportunity. The target matched all our selection criteria, and as a consequence, we engaged with further discussions, right? So we started analyzing the company briefly, and we really dived into the due diligence, soft due diligence, I have to say. And we understood that substantially everything we had was, checked out. Everything was looking fine. So after we went through all these processes, we decided to put out an initial offer letter for the business. And that's ultimately what we did. Now, at that point is where the deal really got sticky. And I'm going to explain you the reasons for that in a second. I presented an offer to the owner, which had a very creative structure in place. And that was because of the nature of the business, some of the situations that we saw happening in the business. That was the only way a deal could actually happen for that particular facility. And so we presented the offer to the owner and we explained to him how the deal was going to be structured. Now, during that conversation, everything appeared to be fine, and the owner appeared to be quite inclined to go ahead with the deal. As a matter of fact, he signed our initial offer letter. And so we proceeded with confidence and we started our own due diligence exercise with full conviction that we had the owner on board with us for the transaction and he was fully aware of what the terms of the initial offer letter were. The problem happened when we were in the process of diving into due diligence because we started asking questions, we started presenting pieces of information to the owner. And as we continued the interaction, it became apparent that the owner was not really aligned with the pricing and structures that we had suggested in the LOI. And so we came back and we asked them, do you really understand what we stated on the LOI? And it ultimately came down that, it ultimately happened that the owner said to us that he didn't fully understand the terms of the LOI, but he agreed to it anyway. And that was a huge problem because we basically invested a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of effort in a transaction that didn't have the other side on board with us fully. The owner said yes to us, probably because of a lack of understanding. And ultimately, as we were diving deeper into the deal, we realized he wasn't on board with that type of solution. And so when we realized that, the deal fell apart, because of course, we re-explained the situation to the owner. And when he finally got it, he decided to, step aside and not proceed with the deal because he wasn't aligned with that type of solution. Now, the lesson I got out of that is that you should never assume that a person has fully understood what you mean, even when he signs something. And this is especially true in a country like the UAE, where there are so many nationalities And most of these people don't have English as primary language. I don't have English as primary language either. I'm Italian. And so it is very, very important when you're using a different language to bridge the communication, to really make sure the other side fully understands what's written on paper. That's one of the reasons for some specific cases we have agreements that are written both in English and Arabic, because it facilitates this process by a lot. But in this particular case, Arabic was not necessary because the owner was not talking Arabic, and we used English because we thought it was the best way to convey the message. And we also explained everything in detail with the owner in a one-on-one interaction. Now, that again told me that you should always be very careful, and you should always be looking at the details and make sure everything that is written on paper, everything that you say has been fully clarified and is understood by the other side. Now, I know what you're thinking. You might be saying, well, the owner used it as an excuse to pull away from the deal because he changed his mind. That, of course, is a possibility, but my intuition tells me that that wasn't the case, at least for that particular deal. Simply, there was some lack of understanding of what the terms really were, and the owner didn't get that fully, and maybe he just wanted to proceed with the deal and get it done, and he, kind of like didn't get the whole structure of the transaction as he should have. And so, getting back to my initial point, this was an important lesson for me because I always think about ways to make deals simpler, and I always think about what is it that I can do to make sure the deal can go through, because there are a lot of things that I cannot influence, right? External factors like approvals, timelines, and so on and so forth. But there are a lot of things that I have control over, and those things I want to get excellent at. And this is something that I did wrong, a mistake that I made, and that I started correcting immediately after that deal failed. Because when I realized that it is important to reiterate the concept multiple times to get clarity, even after you sign, I realized really that the process of understanding each other is probably the most complex thing in a business transaction, especially again when you're dealing with different cultures, different nationalities, different languages, and different ways of thinking. And so never assume anything is what I took away from that transaction, and always ask more questions and be more specific in your explanations, because you're never going to do anything wrong if you just explain a little more, or if you ask a few extra questions. The only thing that can happen after that is that you gain more clarity, and that is, to me, a very important thing to have, because what I want to avoid at all costs is to invest a lot of time, resources, and money into a due diligence exercise and committing into a deal that is not actually clear, pristine, and ready to go. And yeah, again, that's what I took away from that deal. I think it was a very important lesson, because after that moment, we really started having more in-depth discussion with every single owner, even when we work with DealFlow services on behalf of other companies, for example, and we source opportunities for them. We really dive deeper into the interaction with the owner, because we want to understand these tiny little details that might not be apparent after 1, 2, 3 conversations, but they will become more apparent as you ask questions, as you dig deeper, as you explain the situation more deeply. And so I really can stress this concept enough. I keep reminding myself every single time I engage with a new owner or with a new deal. Make sure you don't assume anything even after they sign something. Make sure you clarify that even after they sign, and continue the process of clarifying every single step so that you're always 100% on board with the other side, because tiny little things can happen at any point that can change the way somebody perceives the situation, and that can compromise the entire thing. Again, deals are quite complex, and that's why we believe in bringing in a lot of deal flow, not only for ourselves, but also for other companies that we work with, because that enables to go through these steps much quicker. And once you understand these little details, making the mistakes I made, you can then navigate the few deals that are actually good in the best possible way. So I hope you find this story helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.